So it was in May 1924 that the eminent composer Richard Strauss premiered one of the only two ballets, full-length ballets that he wrote, or it's the original ballets that he wrote in his career. It was premiered in Vienna, and it was a resounding failure. The ballet soon went out of the repertory, and the score was largely left unnoticed. Many people who should know better didn't even know it existed. Alexei Ratmansky was in Japan. He was going through some CDs. He found Schlagerbeurs, which is what it was called, and he put it in his drawer for possible creations in the future. Many years later, he brought the project to ABT, and on March 15th, it was premiered at the Segerstrom Center for the Performing Arts in Orange County in California. It will be seen actually on May 22nd at the Met with ABT. So tonight we're going to talk about the creation of this piece, but first we're going to see some dance, and we're going to watch Stella Abrera, and she's going to dance from Act 1. It is called The Tea Flower. And I might say that tonight on the piano is Jacek Murzyński. Thank you, Jacek. So we're going to start tonight talking to dancers, why not? And we'll start with one of the most beloved principal dancers in American Ballet Theatre, who's celebrating 20 years with the company this year, and that's Marcelo Gomez. "20 years.
Yeah.
And look at you, dancing better than ever, I would say.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. So in those 20 years, you've done an incredible variety. I think probably more than any dancer I've known. You have danced the widest range of roles.
Yeah.
And you're always busy.
Yes.
You're cast in everything, which is nice.
It is nice. I've been very fortunate.
Right.
It's been very blessed in my time at AVT, thanks to Kevin McKenzie, Alexei, and all of my coaches, Clinton Luckett, and I've been really nurtured and homegrown. It's really a life that I didn't think that could happen to anyone, but it did. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
very,
Well,
very happy.
you take some credit for that. Your talent and your behavior and your willingness to step in, always. So.
Yeah, yeah.
And the fact that you've been very robust, you really haven't suffered too much in the way of injury, which I should chat
Yes.
to you about,
Knock on
which is
wood.
great to have a long career. So before Alexei came along, you did a lot of roles. What were some of the favorites that you did?
Well, I remember, a few, like Romeo. That was,
Macmillan's Romeo?
yeah. Giselle as well. I remember seeing videos of Baryshnikov and Fernando Bujones and Julio Boca, who, was later my colleague
Right.
in the studio, do those roles, and then all of a sudden you're there,
Right.
and you're doing
Doing it
those
too.
those things as well, and they're giving you advice, and it's just
Yeah.
an out-of-body experience.
It's very heady being in ABT, but it's wonderful, and
Yeah.
you've done it.
Yeah.
So then Alexei came along, and he cast you in roles immediately, too. On the Dnieper was one?
On the Dnieper, yeah. I
biggie?
think that was the first time we worked together, and that was quite an extraordinary ballet, an extraordinary experience, because he has a way of putting just different nuances into steps and texture, and how you get from point A from point B is a very unique thing, and it's almost like a scientist.
Right.
In a way, he really knows the body. His knowledge of classical ballet is tremendous, and so you have to just go with him and
Right.
trust exactly what he wants and exactly what his vision
So
is.
did it feel very different?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did. It felt quicker. It felt foreign to the body, obviously, the movement, but the result was spectacular. When I sit in the front of the house and watch my friends dance, and I couldn't believe that they could move that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But he works hard in the studio to get it from you, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Good. Well, it's interesting, Alexei, you could leave the room for a little while.
Yeah,
He's
cover
very
your ears.
quiet. Alexei gets the absolute most out of people with the quietest manner, correct?
It's unbelievable how calm it is.
Yeah.
How calm he is. You would never imagine. I've worked with many choreographers that at one point or another will lose, their dignity and their composure. And Alexei I've never heard him scream. Maybe he goes home and screams it out there.
I'm sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
I knew him as a dancer. I was his director when he first came to the West, and he was exactly like that as well. So I've never seen him. But it's amazing the results he gets, because it's hard to get people to push themselves to that point without that kind of force. It's rare that someone does it calmly.
Yeah,
but,
well, it's a mutual respect, I think.
Right.
And I think he respects us, and we respect him, and so we want to be able to be the best we can be when we step into the studio.
Right. So you're beginning to choreograph more and more now.
Yeah.
And are you calm when you deal with your...
I'm not calm. At all.
No.
No, I'm a bit of different.
So do you feel, with the amount of work, when you work with Alexei, you don't mark, you're working full out
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
Do you feel stronger as a dancer because of that? I mean, do you have more?
I think also depends on the dancer. I like to work that way. I like to do things full out in the studio because that's the only way the choreographer is going to tell what looks good, what looks bad, what we can keep, what we can edit. And that just is best for an overall experience. And it does make you stronger. And I feel like by working with Alexei, you see the similar things in your classical work too.
Right.
You know, when you go do a piqué or a basque, you remember, oh, Alexei told me to, you know, take a little bit more time here. It's kind of like you borrow from the beginning to show the end result, or vice versa. And you can definitely apply that to your classical work.
Tell us about your 20th celebration. What are you going to do, and when is it going to be?
It will be May 30th at the Met with Stella Brera. We'll be doing Giselle.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
And talking about Stella Brera, she should have a breath by now. She was going to come out and speak with us too.
Oh, Stella.
There she is. And Stella Brera is now one of the 2 newest principals of American Ballet Theatre. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how does it feel to be, at this point in your career, a principal dancer at American Ballet Theatre, doing work by Alexei Ratmansky and being partnered by this guy?
I can honestly say it's a dream come true. Really is. It's what little girls dream about when they're...
It's a wonderful company to
Yeah.
work for, and you go into the stage door at the Met before a performance, and it just feels surreal, doesn't it? Beautiful, though.
Yeah, and it's amazing that, you know, we grew up together, joined the company at the same time, and now we're celebrating this incredible milestone. And she celebrated her 20th last year. And
With him.
yes, with me.
Wonderful.
And so it's like to look in each other's eyes and really be proud of one another. It really means a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about the challenges of working on Alexei's works, his choreography, his pieces, the roles he's done.
Well, I think it's fair to say that all of them are very physically challenging. There's not one single easy Ratmansky ballet.
Really? Is that
It
true?
doesn't exist, no.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think that makes them that much more fulfilling to perform because you feel like you've really accomplished something at the end. You go through a whole journey from the first minute you start learning the first phrase to when the curtain comes down. The end is such an incredible journey.
I've watched him. He kind of adds detail and layers all the time. And even when you've rehearsed it for a few weeks, he's there saying, try this, push this, elongate that, get the music on this step.
Yeah, music, I think it's a big...
Really drives the process.
And you were talking last night about the compliments when they come, how meaningful they are. Because they're rare. He's great.
Those are nice.
Well, you won't
I
have
like
to,
them.
yes,
They really mean a lot
yeah.
when they come.
So you premiered the work, you premiered this role in California,
That's right.
and you haven't danced it yet.
No, this is my premiere.
So, okay.
Yes, tonight.
So what are you going to do for us now? You're going to dance a duet?
Correct. So this is part of the Pas d'Action, which comes after the solo you just saw. I appear from my apartment, the tea canister.
Apparently, the little boy, the children leave the sweet shop.
The children leave the sweet shop, and we all see that the sweet shop is enchanted, and it all comes to life. So each canister is one of our homes. There's a coffee canister, a sugar canister, cocoa one, and we all come out and we all have a fabulous party once everyone leaves and the shop closes. And this is when Prince Coffee tries to seduce Princess Tea Flower and tries to woo her, and I think he
In this
succeeds.
part of death. Okay. So, why don't you go up and
Shall
do
we?
this?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you both very
Thank you,
much.
John.
Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Marcelo. So let's meet Alexei and talk about the beginnings of the piece and how it developed.
First of all, I want to say that I'm very touched by what Stella and Marcelo said, because it's rare you have a feedback from the dancers. Usually it's the other way around. So it's heartwarming, and I make sure that I remember when I give corrections, that I remember to praise.
Oh.
But it's not hard. These two are not only amazing dancers, but their focus, their ethic is quite extraordinary. Yeah. They are like examples for the company, for young generations.
I don't think you should change anything. It's all working beautifully.
Okay.
So, so you picked up this CD, and it was a complete recording.
Yeah, the first ever, and I think the only one.
And you put it in your bag.
Yeah.
And it lay there for
a little while. Actually, the first chance I had to use it was in Winnipeg when you were my boss. And a wonderful boss. Unfortunately, just 1 year I was...
We worked together.
Yeah, and then you left.
So Alexei was a beautiful dancer, and he joined the company which I was directing at the time.
At the end of the season, there was a choreographic workshop, which I was absolutely ecstatic to find out that there is a possibility for anyone to choreograph, and I was looking for this opportunity for many years. I danced, before I joined Winnipeg, I danced for 6 years in Kiev, Ukraine. So, well, I have to say that my girlfriend, future wife, Tatiana, joined me in Canada, and we came from the, country which was very poor at the time, and not much stuff in a, gastronomic department.
Right.
You don't find many things in the stores at that time. Anyway, her love for whipped cream was quite famous, and it didn't go unnoticed. So I thought I'll make a little joke about that, and I had a music called Whipped Cream. So we did a 8 minutes little piece for 4 dancers. I was a whipped cream, she was a boy loving whipped cream, and there was a mother of this boy and the waiter who served whipped cream.
Was that the first piece you'd ever choreographed?
No, it wasn't.
You had done something in Kiev before?
Yeah. But it was one of the first times that I saw my choreography on stage with audience.
Okay. So then you brought, again, it lay dormant. Did you think about it a lot between then and when you were talking to the Paris Opera about it?
Yeah, well, I thought that this, actually there's a music you've heard, and it's an amazingly beautiful violin solo. And I thought at that time it's the best music of the score. Some of it really seemed too symphonic, too heavy, and the story seemed almost not possible to realize.
Right.
The story is that the boy eats too much whipped cream and feels sick.
And that's it.
Yeah, his stomach hurts. That's the whole story. Well, there is a little bit more than that. He is taken to the hospital, given medicine, then he sees nightmares, or he dreams of sweets.
Right.
Well, on one hand, we have Nutcracker, which is a little similar and much more substantial, I thought at the time, and I was doubtful. Anyway, years later, when Benjamin Millepied was a director
at the
Paris Opera, yeah, he said, would you think of full lengths? And I said, yeah, I have this project, and he seemed enthusiastic about it. But
it didn't work out there, right?
I would say now, fortunately, it didn't work out there. Yeah. So we had a premiere at ABT.
So you brought it to Kevin
this spring.
Okay, there's so many things to talk about. First of all, when did you know that it was crucial that you chose the correct designer for this?
From the first moment, because I, as I said, was doubtful how it will succeed altogether. But having a strong design element I thought would give us a good backup. So we looked at many wonderful designers, painters, and nothing seemed to, click. Until I remembered and actually just looked at my shelf and saw this book that I bought in Japan.
As well, where you found the music.
Yeah,
right?
actually it's a magical place. Good ideas come from Japan, I think. So Mark Ryden, a pop surrealist artist, which has a very specific style. It's, is it called lowbrow? I'm not sure about the meaning of this word, but that's what they say. For me, it's a very high art, very sophisticated.
Right, right.
It does use cliches of pop culture.
Right.
It's very saccharine on the surface, but it has wonderful, I think, very intellectual currents.
Right,
And there is this beautiful stillness that suggests a certain intense life of the fantastical world that he portrays. But everything is still, but even if there is like a fountain of blood, it is still.
So.
And it's very intriguing. It's very intriguing. And I thought that, well, with Richard Strauss, who also uses, sweet harmonies
Right.
sometimes, but and it's melodic. It's not your modernist music of 20th century that, like Schoenberg or Bartok, you think of dissonance. No, Strauss is very melodic, but still there is so much going on there.
An undercurrent there,
yeah,
and there's an edge similar. Yeah,
absolutely,
I
yeah.
see.
So I thought that would work well together. And after Mark agreed, it really shaped the whole idea, I think.
So when you were in the studio, did you have the images that he was producing in your mind?
Yeah, he was done with the designs, the costumes,
Before
and
you
sets
started?
before I started.
Wow.
So it really influenced the way I worked.
Wow. So you just come from working on Fairy's Kiss, Stravinsky, and you started working with Strauss. Is there any comment about that? Was there any similarities, any similar
No, it's
kind of
different. It's
problems?
parallel universes. For
Yeah,
me, it does not go together. But I knew the music well, and for me, it's very important that I'm very comfortable with counts, with phrases, with how it's all constructed. So I spent good amount of time before I go to the studio, and we had about 8 weeks with a little break, 2 weeks break when the company went on tour. So 8 weeks altogether, and then we were lucky to have it premiered in California because they give us a week on stage, which is a luxury. I mean, if you think from the European point of view, it's terribly little amount of time, but for America, it's real luxury.
So in Europe, we're used to a lot of time in a theater with no audience getting things right.
2-3 weeks on stage.
Right.
But
And in America,
it's unimaginable
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is good and bad because it really pushes you to focus. Yeah.
So when you started to plan, did you, even though it's slight, obviously there's a scenario, there's a story. Did you stick to the Strauss story?
Yes, I did. We changed a little bit in a second act because there were a lot of, suggestions of the political situation at the time. So there was a riot of proletarian cookies against some aristocratic cakes.
So you threw that out.
Yeah, we did because I didn't know how to handle that,
But I see that the liquors, actually, the countries that defeated Germany were the 3 liquors: Slivovitz from
Russia,
Poland,
and
vodka from Russia,
France.
and Chartreuse from France.
Yeah.
But you pretty much stuck to the story.
Yes.
So you did a Nutcracker, and you've done a Schlagerbeurs. Were there similarities?
Well, in both ballets, the heroes are kids. And with the Nutcracker, I was sure before I started production for ABT in 2010, that the kids should be played by kids. Because it will, for me, as a spectator, it was always annoying to have the adult dancers portray the kids. Nevertheless, I felt that for whipped cream, in order to give the principals a real choreographic material, they need to be principal dancers, right? And then Mark Ryden, the designer, came up with a brilliant idea of having very few adults, and they will be distinguished by the giant heads, so they look really different, and they make dancers look like
tiny,
yeah, really, really small, which worked, I think, beautifully.
And are the sets a little bigger too to make the dancers look small? I mean, is the proportion of the set?
There are some little tricks, like the tables are bigger in size than usual, and the shelves for the suites in the first act as well.
So you have an affinity. I mean, you have a huge range of style. You can choreograph abstract ballets, very serious ballets, but you can also choreograph through the eyes of a child. Would you say that's a fair thing to?
I don't really know how to comment on that.
But it's a very beautiful thing. And you also don't shy away from comedy, ever. And I think that's a beautiful thing, too. I mean, obviously you take it all seriously. But it's interesting for me, I see when you can become quite slapstick with comedy. It's almost as though you know
sometimes
vaudeville.
I worry because, of course, well, English is my second language, and being brought up in Russia, nations, people from different countries, they have different sense of humor. So, for example, the very funny ballet that I did at the Bolshoi, The Bright Stream, the first time we brought it on tour to Europe, we were so worried that it will not work, and it turned out...
It has a dog, it has a man in drag, it has...
It has everything, and it's really rooted in a Soviet history of 1930s.
But to me it looks quite British too. It's kind of like panto almost, the comedy.
Okay, it's good to hear.
And I grew up in Australia, and we used to see vaudeville, and it had that kind of stuff in it too.
Right.
So, and people in America were laughing. So I think in a way, I mean, when you're good at comedy, it's universal.
The reaction of the audience will tell you exactly if it works or not.
Yes,
the danger with a comedy is that you should never force it. And that's the main thing that we try to work in a studio, because the dancers are, in a sense, like kids. When they hear the reaction of the audience, they want to do more and more.
Right.
Yeah, and that's important to keep it structured.
But again, with Strauss, he's looked on as quite serious as a composer. Is there humor in this? Is there much?
I think there is a lot of humor there. Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, he was really criticized after the premiere.
Oh, in
yeah,
Vienna.
And then in his defense, he said, "Well, I know people expect serious themes from me and dramatic developments and stuff, but in these times." After the war, I feel my duty as an artist to give a joy.
Right.
And I really loved his the sentence, because I think at some times in history it's important to just give joy.
Right. I'm talking about giving joy. We're going to see another solo now with Joseph Gorak. This is Prince Coco. So this is, again, does he come out of a canister too?
Yes, he does. He needs to jump down from the quite a tall table, and he's a part of this pas d'action that Stella was talking about, pas d'action of the first act.
Thank you, Joseph. So now to talk a little bit more about the music of this piece, I'm going to ask Charles Barker, Principal Conductor of American Ballet Theatre, to join us. Charles.
Thank you.
So you studied music as a young man. Had you ever run across this score before?
Yeah, I'm one of those people who didn't hear about it until Alexei talked about it. So, and I aced every music history course I ever took. So it was definitely buried in the pile of CDs in the Japanese store in Tower Records in Harajuku, I guess. But it was after having been part of the opening in Orange County, I realized that probably the Philharmonic, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Boston Symphony, Pittsburgh Symphony, they're going to be playing Schlagerbears in between 3 and 5 years from now,
right,
because everybody will be talking about it. And Alexei is responsible for it, and I think it's wonderful. I have to give him a great credit for that, definitely.
Actually, what's very interesting is that a record company would back a recording, a full recording of the piece when nobody knew about it.
And it's a good recording too. It's a Japanese orchestra and a Japanese conductor, and it's very musical, very Viennese in sound, and you know, often when it's a recording like that, I you know, raise my eyebrows, but this one was very good.
Alexei, you talked about feeling the music was very complicated, rather symphonic when you first heard it. Do you think if you, in another world, if you had been given the opportunity to choreograph it in the early 90s, you would have been able to handle it as well as you do now with all the ballets you've done under your belt and the confidence you have?
No, I guess not. I guess not, because it is a complex thing. But what's great about the score, I want to say that Strauss really used the dance balletic rhythms. There are polkas, there are waltzes, there are marches, there are gallops. So what seemed very symphonic, when I hear it, when we went to the studio, all of it just flourished and really helped those great rhythms, dance rhythms.
He choreographed it with, I mean, he wrote the music with a choreographer nearby, I guess, right?
It's exactly right, yeah. There was a man who was responsible for the original production, and I think he was giving directions to Strauss.
So as in the repertoire of ABT, is it thrilling for you to have this piece now coming into the
I'm so excited about it. In fact, I want to make sure that I'm not in, you know, I'm not in marketing and I'm not in promotions, but if you've bought your tickets already, that's great, and congratulations. Go buy more tickets to later performances, because this production, I've never been as excited about a new production or anything that's happened at the Met that I've been involved in, save one thing early on, besides Whipped Cream. It has this fantastic choreography, a magical set, and this music that is astoundingly beautiful and deep and sensitive. And now that one other thing that I was involved in a long, long time ago, I just wanted to mention, it was the John Curry Skating Company, and the woman who was responsible for that is here tonight. I saw her. Her name is Jane Herman, and she was director of the presentations at the Met in 1983, and she put on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House ice. And these Olympic skaters, led by Dorothy Hamill and John Curry, danced or skated to the choreography of Laura Dean and Twyla Tharp and Lara Lubavitch, and John himself choreographed. And it was absolutely fantastic. Now, what I experienced in Orange County was something that was a little different, because there's music, there's choreography, there's the set, but there's one more component that this is the reason that I'm suggesting that you buy more tickets, is because the audience is also part of the entire production. There was nothing more enjoyable than sitting in the audience and watching this curtain go up and listening to the series of from everyone. And then when there was some magic on the stage, only a few people would see it, and you'd hear, and then the next time it would happen, everybody would see it, and everybody would start talking. So to know about this and to know that it's going to happen, I think is part of the production.
Mm. How difficult is this piece to play for the orchestra?
Strauss is always hard.
Right.
There is no, there's no easy Ratmansky to dance. There's no easy Strauss
is it a big
to play.
orchestration?
Huge orchestra,
Really?
5 clarinets, bass clarinet in A, and 2 C clarinets, which are extremely unusual instruments, but Strauss liked them. And I might just talk about one one musical aspect. When I look at a score, it doesn't really matter to me whether I like it or not. That's not relevant. What I'm interested in is why I like it or why it's beautiful, and I analyze the score and figure out for myself why I think it's beautiful, and then I highlight that. I go for it when I'm working on the piece and rehearsing it and performing it. And there's several ways that composers use to make a piece beautiful. Strauss used every one of them, and either fulfilling your expectations, that's one really good way, or confounding your expectations. That's Strauss was extremely gifted at that, and the violin solo that Alexei was saying is so beautiful. He does that over and over again. He takes you to these harmonic places that you've never been, and you can't imagine that you're there. All of a sudden, you're in the key that's the furthest away than you expected, and in that lies the beauty. But another way is to play music that's familiar to us, and either it could be written by the composer, so something that Strauss could write in Act 1, he'll bring back in Act 2, but he'll color it in a different way. And another way is to borrow music or adapt music from another composer. And I would like to ask Jacek if he would play the Boys variation from Act 2. And it's a very difficult variation for the boy, but the music is really fun. And we'll just play the opening phrase. It's a solo horn that's playing it. Thank you, Jacek. Now this is in C major, pretty simple. Now Strauss really loved Mozart, and I expect that he was looking for maybe just some inspiration, or it just came to him. And there's a piece that you all know. It's Mozart's Symphony No. 40 in G minor, and he has a minuet, the third movement. It's in 3/4. It's in minor, so it's a different mode. But Jacek, would you mind playing that? Now, would you mind just playing the right hand of the Mozart? Thank you. Now would you mind playing the Strauss again, please? So very interesting. Now Strauss added his own hand to this, and he definitely didn't steal this. Mozart wouldn't get upset about it at all. But he added mixed meter to it. So what you hear in the Strauss is a combination of 2/4 bars and 3/4 bars. Would you mind playing it one more time, Jacek? And I'm going to just whisper into the microphone. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. So he put 2/4 and 3/4 bars together in the melody. So he borrowed the melody from Mozart, but let's just look back at the Mozart and see what he did with the rhythm. Could you play the right hand of the Mozart? And I'm going to whisper again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So Mozart also has mixed meter embedded in his music. Strauss borrowed not only the melody, but he borrowed the idea of mixed meter from his favorite composer, Mozart.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's good. Actually, I have a question. You know, Strauss music, when you think about it, you think about orchestral color. But when we work day to day in a studio, we have to work from piano score. So somebody has to reduce that score and try and reflect as much orchestral color that the dancers are not too surprised when they get on stage. How did that work at ABT? Who did that?
There's a published piano reduction.
There is. So that was.
And unfortunately, it has, usually a piano has 2 lines, the right hand and the left hand. This often has 3 lines. Now, you don't have 3 hands. How do you play that? Sure. But it's an extremely complicated score. So it would be great to have, say, a 4-hand version of it.
So it was probably done because it was written as a ballet, and maybe it was done at the original.
I expect it was that Strauss probably did it himself. Yeah.
I have another score question. When you listen, because I've seen you, Alexei spends a lot of time awake, a lot of time asleep, and more time than either with the earphones on, correct?
That's true.
Do you also work with a score?
I do. I trust more my ears, yeah. And if there is a difficult moment, I will rhythmically I would go to the score, but just listening to it would be enough for me.
Okay. It's very challenging being in the studio with Alexei because he knows the music better than I do most of the time. So. Yeah, it's true.
I consult, yeah.
Well, we're going to watch another part of Dirt, Charles. We could listen to you all night.
Oh, no.
I go on and on. On the music. No, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And by the way, I went to the Met today and I bought my tickets. So we're going to see now Herman Cornejo and Cassandra Trenery dancing from something from the second act.
Yes, this is a pas de deux of the boy, the hero of the ballet, and Princess Praline. So, as I said, he's given medicine and he sleeps, and we guess in his dream he sees this beautiful princess who's going to save him from this terrible place.
Okay. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Herman. I have one question for you before we do our next little thing. Did you ever study choreography with anybody?
Well, yes, actually for 4 years there is this art institute in Moscow called GITIS, and I studied with a famous, prominent choreographer, Russian choreographer, Dmitry Bryancev. But to be honest, we didn't have much contact. I actually always thought that we go in completely different directions.
Really?
Yeah, and maybe I was, I don't know, a youth something.
Right,
I don't know
right.
the right word, but I was all his corrections were like, oh, what nonsense. And now I think, well, I could have learned more from him actually.
Right. Right. It's interesting because some great choreographers never studied at all. It just all came to them.
Well, my personal feeling is that you learn your craft as a choreographer first as a dancer.
Right.
Everything you dance
Right.
really made you know it by the body.
That is
And
true.
then you try to see as much choreography as possible. And then you experience as a spectator.
Right.
You understand what you like, what you don't. And that's the best school, I guess.
That makes sense. So we're going to see a little bit of you in action now with Catherine Herlin, and you're going to coach her a little bit doing the dance of one of the liquors. Chartreuse, are you chartreuse? Yes, you are.
She is. Hi, Catherine. Okay, how are you? Okay, let's start. Okay. Thanks. Thanks. That's great. And Catherine, you did it how many times? 4 or 5 times already? Yeah, so it's like really in your body. But I'd like to refine a few little things. First is the entrance. If you can hide the back leg when you do a bourrée more. Not only the foot, but the knee and the cuff. Yes. I think it will just look a little bit more, sharper. That's right, yeah. Then, when you arrive in your place, can you go down slower, like really feeling the demi point? Yeah. Trying to find your balance. Yeah, that's right, yeah. You can spend even more time because you just came to life. You are a bottle. So it takes a few seconds for you to just focus, realize where you are. Right, and slower. Right. That's better. You can do a little bit less with the arms there. Okay, then try to really step further with each of your piqués. Okay, what if you bend the knee and send your weight forward? Right, that's better. So that will take more time than you used to. So start a little bit sooner. Yeah, split second before you want to go, you need to go. Right, both times. Then I always think that it's better to actually use as much space around you as possible. So when you do a brisé, yeah, you try to cover that much more space each time. Right? That's great. So when you land, first of all, really use plie. Don't just bend the knees, but use the muscles and feel your weight when you land. Right. And what you did beautifully now, when you land, your weight is ready to go into the next direction. Yeah, so you don't lose time there. That's it. And the same here. Now, you could have stretched it more. Right? And treble and treble. Well, now you know how to handle it. Right. That's great. Let's continue from where we stopped. Okay, thanks. It seems that you're a little bit late to arrive into the arabesque, right? So you just spent less time with Roncham. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By 6 you need to be done. You don't start on 6, but you go 5, 6. Yeah? Try that. Better? Okay. Can we go back to entrecote a little bit? So look, from the floor, I think you need to start, like, it looks a little lazy. You do beat, but it doesn't have the brilliance. So I think you need to start on the way up and then beat with energy. Yeah, don't like stay there. You start crossing and then you need to open right away. Yeah, so everything happens without waiting. You just no, you go, what do? You open first, then you cross, and then you close, right? Let me see. That's right, that's better, yeah. So just, you don't need to overstretch the knees, because it's all about the feet. You need to show the brilliant bit with your feet. That's better, yeah, that's it. Okay, let's go on. Or, we're done.
Maybe that's enough, because
that's
we're going to
enough,
see
yeah.
this dance. Well, you have to make up for last night. Remember last night you forgot to stop her. Thank you, Catherine, so much. Poor Catherine did the variation like 4 times last night because you forgot to stop her.
No, she was so good. She was so good. Yeah.
So now we're going to invite the Director of Productions from ABT, Jamie Whitehill, to talk a little bit about the challenges of putting this very large production together. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you, Alexei. Go back to choreographing. Okay, so you've put together a little PowerPoint, and then there's a 6-minute video that shows what?
So we'll start by taking a look at the process that we go through, and at the end we'll look at a video that shows the load-in process from the first time we've opened the trucks in Orange County until opening night.
So you'll see it. And we're going to kind of talk across this as we go. So you were given the news that a new full-length ballet was not going to use a theater designer but an artist. Did your heart sink?
Exactly.
And why?
You know, we've done that on a couple of occasions, but never on this scale before. And Mark Ryden is a surrealist pop artist who's used to painting a single canvas, and we have to translate that picture into stage scenery. So the process is the same. We start with our creative meetings, and then we look at Mark's inspiration. He does some research. He comes up with some sketches. We workshop that. Then we go to the design process, and then building, and then into the theater. So what we had to do with Mark was to help him translate the paintings to the full scenery, the dimensional scenery.
I mean, just looking at the tutus, that was just two-dimensional on paper. And then somebody had to be there between the people in the wardrobe and the designer and say, well, should we use this fabric? Do we do this? Is this the...
Right, so generally a designer who has worked in theater before knows how to
design and choose the fabric and how...
to make it to the stage, exactly. So with the production department working full-time on touring and scheduling and pre-planning for the future, we had to slot this into our already busy schedule. And so we hired a scenic supervisor and a costume supervisor to help Mark translate everything into physical production.
So you had a sense of how huge this was when the sketches started rolling in, right?
We did, yes.
You knew what that would take.
Yes.
Now, I believe that you kind of drove this forward even before you knew it was a Go project, right?
Right. We knew that this project was going to happen. We just didn't know exactly when. We were given, we met with Mark Ryden for the very first time in Orange County, California, in December of 2015. And didn't know if we would open this in 2017 or 18 or 19. But from a production standpoint, because we had so much physical production to build, unlike Alexei being able to walk into the studio and the dancers of this company being able to learn this choreography in just 8 short weeks, we have physical production to build. There's ordering of materials and the building and the painting, and it all takes however much time it takes.
How many costumes are involved, do you know?
I think that we've got about 100 costumes, not including doubles.
And then sets, painted drops, and there were also other things, right? The heads that we talked about earlier.
Right. So there were a total of about 13 shops that worked on this production. We had 2 prop shops who worked specifically on puppets and props. We had a scene shop, a paint shop that did all the painting, and then there were 9 costume shops.
Wow.
That things were spread across. So it was a lot to organize.
So where are we in the process here?
So what we're seeing now is this is about 9 days worth of work compressed into 6 minutes. So what you're seeing is we started with an empty theater and trucks that came in from the scene shops and the costume shops with scenery for the very first time that we've ever seen it in one place. You're seeing the supers going through fittings for the very first time. We're seeing scenery being hung, lighting equipment being put up. At this point now, we've just ended one day and gone into the next. We have all the drops hanging, and now we're looking at all the lighting equipment. We're going through what we call our repertory focus, where we focus our light plot the way it would be for any ballet.
Right.
And then we go from there and start working on specials. So we set every single scene, every piece of scenery. We make sure that we like where it is, and then we focus a light on it.
So this is why you need time in a theater, right?
Exactly.
And how many days did you have in the theater?
Well, as I think
you say
Alexei
that?
mentioned earlier, one of the great things about opening a new ballet in Orange County is they gift us a full week of tech prior to opening in the theater that we're going to perform in. So it's very efficient. We load in one time, we tech the ballet, we try everything, and then we can open it without having to take it away and put it back into a new theater.
Right.
So we had about 10 days from including a day off, which is also unusual, from the time we opened the truck until we brought the curtain up on the first performance.
Tell us about the big heads. There are 4 adult characters who have huge heads, right?
Right. So as Alexei mentioned, the 4 adult characters are delineated by the fact that they have these massive heads, which makes them tall and seem much grander than, on a much different scale than all of the principal dancers who are playing children. These 4 heads were built by a specialty shop in Portland, Oregon, who is most well known for his work on Lion King, and I'd say almost any big puppeteer that you see these days probably comes from this shop. They're made of carbon fiber, so although they're, as Alexei said, 3 or 3.5 feet around, they only weigh about 10 pounds each.
But there's something special about them now, correct?
There is something special. After they were built, the shop painted them according to Mark's specifications, and when that process was complete, they were boxed up and shipped one by one to Mark's house, where he then painted on them himself. So we took these $40,000 prop heads and turned them into priceless works of art, because Mark now has painted every single one of them.
So was he there for the whole time at Segerstrom?
We started our load-in on a Monday, and Mark joined us on Wednesday.
And was he pleased with what happened, or was he able, I mean, a seasoned theater designer would come and tweak a lot at that point. Did he do that?
And they would also know what to expect. And what was great about working with Mark on this is, as he was moving from the design process into the scene shops and then into the theater, he's used to painting on canvases that are 6 feet across. And now we're showing him that very same design 60 feet across and 40 feet tall. So as he stood on those drops the first time in the shops, he was just amazed. And to see him come into the theater and see these designs virtually, actually coming to life was something to behold.
So you drove this forward without the funding in place. The worst scenario would be that the funding happened and you had to open in 2017, which is what happened. When did you find out that you really needed to plan and continue to plan?
Well, as I said in the beginning, one of the things that we had to do from a production standpoint was to act as if this was going to happen in March of 2017, which in fact it did. And I'd say it was probably during the Met season sometime, or maybe shortly thereafter in July or August, that we found out for sure that we were doing it, and certainly that it was happening in March.
Wow, wow. And you made it.
And we did make it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you must sit back there and feel a lot of ownership for this.
I do, I do.
And I guess sometimes you know. I guess sometimes you know that a lot of work goes into sets and costumes, and you see an audience not react, and then you get a piece like this where the audience really does react. That must also give you extra satisfaction, right?
It does. Yeah. It's every production that we do has a moment in it, and it happens over and over again that the curtain goes up or comes down at the end, and there's just an overwhelming response from the audience.
Right.
But what was special about this piece is that happened every single time the curtain opened, every time we did a scene change, every time the lights came up from a blackout. There was applause for Mark's creation, which was then followed on by equal reaction for Alexei's creation. And it really is a gift that he's given to this company.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about this. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. So the ABT season at the Met opens on May 15th, and it goes through July 1st?
8, 9?
July 8th or 9th,
I think so.
yes. But whipped cream is May 22nd to the 24th, and then it comes back June 26th to July 1st. So buy your tickets. We're gonna be played out or danced out by the three lickers, which comes in the second act. They distract the doctor so that he kind of forgets he's looking after this little boy, and it's Catherine Herlin, it's Duncan Lyle, and it is Roman
Zerban.
Just Zerban, yes, the one and only, doing the lickers from Act 2 of Whipped Cream. Thank you so much for coming.